Tomorrow, President Biden and Vice President Harris will share a stage for the first time since he dropped out of the race more than 3 weeks ago. Joining me now is one of President Biden's longtime advisors, former White House Chief of Staff Klain, who helped him prepare for his first and only debate with Donald Trump. Mr. Klain, appreciate you being with us. You did not want President Biden to drop out. You've said he deserved a second term. Given what you've seen in the 3 weeks since he did with the Harris-Walz campaign, were you wrong, you think?
Well, I don't know if I was wrong or not, but the president made a decision to drop out, and I think he executed it extremely well. He handed the baton off clearly to Vice President Harris. One of my concerns was if he dropped out, there were some people in our party who wanted to have an open process, an ersatz process to pick a nominee. But I thought that if he was going to drop out, the one thing to do was to give the baton clearly to the vice president. She's prepared to be president uniquely among other Democrats and experienced in national campaigns. And the success she's had in these 3 weeks proves that he made the right choice to endorse her and to point the party towards her and to rally the party behind her. She's been a great candidate. She will be a great president. And I think there's been a lot of success these past 3 weeks on the campaign trail for her.
When the president dropped out, I think it was a tweet you sent out, you publicly blamed what you called donors and electeds, saying that they, quote, pushed out the president. They pushed out Biden from the campaign. Is that really the case? I mean, after that debate, certainly there was huge dismay among Democratic voters, wasn't there? And certainly just this latest, poll that we just talked about at the top of the program, in terms of enthusiasm, it's at, 85% or something right now, as opposed to 46% in June.
Well, I agree. Enthusiasm is up. There's a lot of rallying around the vice president. I'm so glad to see it. It's hard-earned and well-deserved for her. But I do think, the president was pushed by public public calls from elected officials for him to drop out, from donors calling him to drop out. And I think that was wrong. I think he made the decision ultimately, and he made the right decision to say, if I'm going to leave the race, I think the vice president should take over. And
why was it wrong, though, for them to do that? Why was it wrong for donors to raise objections to, other elected officials?
I think that, not wrong like immoral, but I think it was unfortunate, because I think that the president had won the nomination fair and square. 14 million people went and voted for him and the vice president's vice president. But again, that's all in the past, Anderson. He decided to drop out. He decided to endorse the vice president. Her campaign is going well. We have a better chance than ever to defeat Donald Trump this fall and to elect a experienced, talented, intelligent president to lead the country for the next 4 years.
Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who obviously played a key role in convincing and pressuring President Biden to step aside, has said that she hasn't spoken to the president since he dropped out, and that she loses sleep over the fate of their friendship. She's also been quite blunt, telling David Remnick of the New Yorker, quote, "I've never been that impressed with his political operation. They won the White House, bravo. But my concern was this ain't happening, and we have to make a decision for this to happen. They were not facing the fact of what was happening," end quote. I'm wondering how you respond to that criticism, and if you take issue with anything Speaker Pelosi has said just in the past several weeks.
Well, I'm not looking for a fight with Speaker Pelosi. She has her view, and she's entitled to it. I will say about the president's political operation, it did win in 2020 and delivered the best midterm result for Democrats of any Democratic president since 1934. So that's a pretty good pedigree right there. I acknowledge that the president was at best tied and perhaps a bit behind in the race. And as he said, the party was divided about his future. And the way to beat Donald Trump is to unite the Democratic Party. And he had lost the ability to do that. And he thought Vice President Harris was the right person to do that. And he's been proven right in that regard. She has united the party behind her forcefully and effectively. And that's what we need to win this fall.
You had stepped down as the White House Chief of Staff, obviously back in 2023. You came back to oversee the debate that the president had with Donald Trump. Was there? I don't want to go over all of what happened, but I'm just wondering. There was a lot of talk in the run-up to that debate about the prep that the team you all put in place was doing. There was talk about an airplane hangar where you recreated the stage. I mean, the night of the debate, was there anybody raising any concern about the president that night and his ability to was there any talk about having him not go out on that stage?
No, the president was suffering from a cold, and he was tired from 4 trips back and forth across the Atlantic in the days leading up to the debate. But he had done well in the practices, and we thought he was going to do very well that night. And he obviously did not perform well. And then there was
But
this
even
kind of,
like even the way he walked out onto the stage and the way he looked in cutaways, I mean, it was really a complete surprise to you.
I mean, the way he walked out on the stage is he walked out on the stage, and so I think that we expected a better performance. He expected a better performance. It didn't happen, and then people reacted to that, and so I think that in the end he made the right decision to hand the baton over to the vice president and to strongly and enthusiastically back her candidacy, and it's been a very successful candidacy, as it should be. She is extremely experienced. She has been involved in national security decisions. She's represented our country at the Munich Security Conference twice. She's known by world leaders. She's well regarded on the world stage. And here at home, she's been fighting for freedom and economic justice for all Americans, as a senator, as a state attorney general, and now as vice president.
Yeah. Just finally, I mean, there have been a number of political observers wondering out loud if people in the president's inner circle had their judgment clouded by their desire to stay in power. New York Times columnist Tom Friedman wrote right after the debate, he said, quote, "I had been ready to give Biden the benefit of the doubt up to now because during the times I engaged with him one-on-one, I found him up to the job. He clearly is not any longer. His family and his staff had to have known that." Is that fair? I mean,
no, I don't think that's
fair. Did they
fair.
have to have known that?
First of all, I think he's absolutely up to the job. If you saw after the debate, he had a bad night at the debate. I won't deny that. But after the debate, he gave an hour-long press conference after the NATO summit where he talked about world events, and some have called it one of the best foreign policy press conferences any president's ever given. He navigated that NATO summit and rallied NATO behind the Ukraine declaration to support Ukraine, continue to support for Ukraine, and then explained his policies about China and Europe, I think, very effectively in that press conference. So I think he's clearly up to the job. He brought home a number of American hostages since then. So I just think that Mr. Friedman's wrong about that. I don't deny that it was a bad debate performance, but that's different than whether or not the president is up to the job. He's clearly up to the job. He's doing it every day. He's doing it successfully.
Ron Klain, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Anderson.
Back with me now is David Axelrod, who served as senior advisor to President Obama. David, what do you make of what Ron was saying?
Well, first of all, look, I know Ron well. We worked together in the White House. I was involved in a lot of debate preps with him, and he's excellent at what he does. I do think that there was, and you could see in his own comments, a tremendous sense of loyalty among the group around the president. And I don't, I'm not going to criticize them for that. But the truth of the matter is what happened in that debate was that long-standing concerns that people had had that grew over time about the president's performance in public just broke open like a dam. And it wasn't public officials who drove the president from the race. It was public opinion. And you can see now that, 90% of Democrats say he made the right decision, and a like number say they're happy that Kamala Harris is the candidate. He is right, by the way, that the president's decision to quickly embrace the vice president as his successor as a candidate helped her enormously, and it helped her consolidate very quickly. So he's right about all that. But let's be honest, the president made a very tough decision, and it was the right decision. And the result is we now have a very competitive race for president, and we wouldn't have had he not made that decision.
It is interesting. I mean, had the president not immediately, sort of indicated that the baton should go to the vice president, there had been all that talk among donors and others and publicly, and a lot of hand-wringing of should there be some sort of 3 or 4 sort of prominent people who suddenly get elevated, who then go on some sort of barnstorming tour, doing town halls. I mean, there was never very clear of how all that would work.
No, I was proposing debates on AC 360 over a series of nights, and then the audience could vote on that. But I was, yes. But look, I think that regardless of whether there had been such a process, and you can see there's a lot of talent in the Democratic Party. A number of those candidates were in contention for vice president. But regardless of that, I think she was always the front runner. I think had she participated in a process or not, she likely would have been the nominee. But the rapidity, the speed with which she consolidated this nomination, I think was part of why she's had such momentum, because it was very efficient. It was very, professional. And I think it said something about her as a leader.
David Axelrod, thanks so much.